who's from the Navajo Nation. Together, they host exclusive dinners showcasing a unique take on ancient recipes. Recipes Lois included in her award-winning cookbook.
Native American cuisine has evolved over 10,000 years.
And it's super diverse. There are over 570 federally recognized tribes in the U.S., each hailing from different regions. Tribes in the Great Plains might have eaten bison and chokecherries. In the East, they consumed wild turkeys, turtles, and other small game. And those in the Pacific Northwest had access to multiple types of salmon and wild onions. But despite that diversity, Lois has categorized thousands of years of Native American cuisine into 4 distinct historical periods. The first is the pre-contact period, which is
all the foods that existed before contact with any other culture group outside of Native people.
That includes all the food natives hunted, gathered, grew, and traded on their own before the European invasion.
And that would be the basis, the foundation for Native American cuisine. So, wild game.
And
what I call the magic 8. So, corn, beans, squash, chili, tomato, potato, vanilla, and cacao. Inherently American. Does that mean that corn didn't exist outside of the Americas in 1491? Yes. Beans, squash, didn't exist outside of the Americas. The Italians didn't have the tomato. The Irish didn't have the potato. The Russians, they didn't have vodka or potato. Half the British national dish, fish and chips, did not exist. No chilies in any Asian cuisine, in any East Indian cuisine. And the French had no confection using vanilla or chocolate.
So many dishes that are familiar to you and me, chicken tikka masala, spaghetti and meatballs, Thai green curry, wouldn't exist as you know them without Native American ingredients. Which brings us to the next period.
So we have cuisine that's old, diverse, sophisticated, delicious, and then we have this contact
with the Europeans.
Right, let's just focus on the Spanish influence, and we can say, well, they brought horses, guns, disease, and rats. Okay, but we don't eat those. They brought domesticated animals, sheep, pork, beef, chickens, and the byproducts of those animals. If you think about Native Americans, most of us are lactose intolerant. We ate wild game. Do you think you could get close enough to an elk to milk it?
After a few centuries of this food exchange, native ingredients spread throughout the world. But as that happened, Native Americans were being robbed of their land.
Millions and millions of immigrants were coming to the United States. And maybe that's a good thing for the immigrants, but not such a good thing for Native people.
These new settlers really wanted land. And they pillaged, plundered, and killed natives and burned down their towns to get their hands on it. The US government played a massive role too. They even passed something called the Indian Removal Act. And one of the biggest atrocities they committed came to be known as the Trail of Tears. Starting in the 1830s, tens of thousands of natives in the Southeast were forced to march thousands of miles in harsh conditions. Thousands upon thousands died. Those that survived were confined to a designated Indian territory, right around here. And over the next few decades, even more tribes were crammed into this space.
My tribe is evicted and moved to Indian territory.
And the land the US government confined them to, little by little, even that was seized by the settlers. Other tribes were being forced onto plots of land called reservations as a way to control them. Once there, they couldn't hunt, gather, or grow traditional foods like they used to. This is when a lot of native cuisine was lost.
Whenever you're displaced, you lose traditional knowledge surrounding where you've been living for thousands of years. What foods grow, what animals are there, when to plant, when to harvest.
Now, native people were living on unfamiliar land, forced to live without the resources they used to have.
So the government steps in and issues commodity foods, starvation foods, army rations to keep them alive, barely. We call this the government issue. The government issued foods for survival.
These were ingredients like flour, lard, coffee, and sugar. Foods that were completely different from what natives were used to, with far less nutritional value than their own traditional cuisine.
Out of this period, fry bread's born. And so fry bread is an interesting native food, an imposed government food that we use for survival. Those elders, if they didn't come up with this bread, maybe they would have perished. But it also represents colonization.
That history is why some native chefs use fry bread and others don't. And that brings us to the last period, the one we're in now, It's what Lois calls new Native American cuisine.
Now, Native chefs around the United States are classically trained, equal to their European counterparts, and we are choosing what ingredients from what period we want to put in our menus. I can construct menus from any of those periods, all of those periods, and the way we present them are very new.
So we helped them prep for one of their big events.